Frank Sinatra was a multifaceted personality, a crooner who made Bobby-Soxers swoon, an Academy Award-winning actor and the elder statesman of the Rat Pack. At the peak of his fame, it was said that every woman wants to have him, every man wants to be him. However, Sinatra's admirers and critics were not the only ones fascinated by him. The FBI also took a keen interest in him. The Federal Bureau of Investigation monitored Sinatra for over 4 decades, compiling a dossier of thousands of pages detailing his movements, statements, and associations. These files, released after Sinatra's death in 1998, chronicle his tumultuous career and read like a thrilling narrative of a life lived on his own terms. Sinatra's rise to stardom in the 1940s quickly drew the FBI's attention due to allegations that he had paid a doctor $40,000 to declare him medically unfit for World War II service. In the photo, Frank Sinatra is seen signing documents before leaving his draft board in Newark, New Jersey. Reflecting on his rejection, the singer expressed, "I am very unhappy about it. If they had accepted me, I would have chosen the Army or Marines." Although the FBI dismissed these allegations, citing his exemption for a punctured eardrum and psychological issues as legitimate, rumors of draft dodging persisted throughout his life and even negatively impacted his career in the late 1940s. While his excuse for not serving was legitimate, his connections to known Mafia figures and a rotating cast of underworld characters were far from clean. Sinatra's FBI file serves as a guide to the organized crime figures of the era. Despite Sinatra's denials of any mob ties, he interacted with notorious Mafia figures such as Chicago mob boss Sam Giancana, with whom he was close friends. Reportedly, Sinatra introduced Giancana to John F. Kennedy's campaign in 1960 to help secure Union votes for the future president. According to Sinatra's daughter Tina, he performed at Giancana's Chicago club as a token of gratitude. Sinatra also introduced Kennedy to Judith Campbell Exner, Giancana's girlfriend. During their subsequent affair, Exner allegedly acted as a go-between for Kennedy and Giancana, aiding in a plot for the mob to assassinate Fidel Castro. Though the plot never materialized, Exner later testified before a Senate committee investigating JFK's potential mob connections. Sinatra had numerous other Mafia acquaintances, many of whom are detailed in his FBI files, which include sections titled Associations with Criminals and Hoodlums and Accusations of Being a Dope Racketeer. There are records of gifts from Joseph and Charles Fischetti, Chicago outfit brothers who ran illegal gambling operations. There's a Godfather-esque appearance at an Atlantic City club as a favor for guests at the wedding of Philadelphia mobster Angelo Bruno's daughter. There's even evidence of the mob exerting pressure to release Sinatra from a 1951 contract. FBI agents also observed Sinatra socializing with Detroit mobsters Anthony and Vito Giacalone. "It was like clockwork," retired FBI agent Sam Ruffino told author Scott M. Bernstein. "A few times a year, we'd trail the Giacalones to the airport to pick up Sinatra. They'd spend the weekend together socializing before and after his shows. Almost every night, they'd shut the place down, and he didn't make any apologies for it. Those were his friends. The fact that they were known hoodlums and murderers didn't matter to him. He didn't care. He was going to hang around with who he wanted to hang around with." Sinatra flaunted his relationships with organized crime figures, often taking public photographs with known mobsters. His gangster friends shared his interests in gambling, women, and money, frequently meeting in casinos and nightclubs. Despite his associations, Sinatra offered to inform on some of the criminals he associated with. In 1950, he sent an associate to J. Edgar Hoover to offer his services as an informant, perhaps to protect himself from rumors of mob involvement. The FBI declined, with one of Hoover's aides writing, "We want nothing to do with him," on the report of the meeting. Sinatra was never prosecuted for any criminal activity related to his Mafia connections. He was also never brought before the House Un-American Activities Commission, but the FBI surveilled him for what they deemed suspicious activities potentially linked to communism. His FBI file includes accounts of his supposedly suspicious activities, from supporting anti-racist initiatives to defending those accused of being communists. Beyond his many liberal causes, Sinatra was a founding member of the Committee for the First Amendment, which supported the Hollywood 10, screenwriters and directors blacklisted for refusing to disclose their Communist Party membership. Sinatra's FBI dossier reveals a dismaying situation, writes historian Gerald Meyer. At no time does it contain anything that even hints at an activity disallowed by the Bill of Rights. Meyer, who documented Sinatra's support for progressive causes and his public opposition to racism and the McCarthy-era Red Scare, views the FBI files as proof of a government that saw Sinatra as a threat. The FBI's attention wasn't always on Sinatra himself. As a high-profile star, he was often targeted by individuals seeking to extort or blackmail him. In 1963, this threat became personal when 3 men kidnapped Sinatra's son, Frank Sinatra Jr. The FBI advised Sinatra to await a ransom demand and then pay it so they could trace the money and catch the kidnappers. Frank Sinatra Jr. was released when the kidnappers became nervous, and the FBI soon apprehended them. All 3 were convicted. In the photograph, Chief FBI Agent William G. Simons of Los Angeles and FBI Assistant Director Joseph Casper display the money recovered after the apprehension of 3 men linked to the kidnapping of Frank Sinatra Jr. Sinatra was aware of the government's surveillance. In 1979 and 1980, he requested and received his FBI file through the Freedom of Information Act. Although his FBI file never led to any legal trouble for him, it illustrates the influence and power of the charismatic singer. While it's full of references to his dubious dealings and shady friends, it also highlights his advocacy against racism and for democracy. Even Sinatra's professional successes were enough to attract FBI scrutiny. The file begins not with a record of his mob connections, but with a letter complaining about the shrill whistling sound made by Sinatra's fans. How easy it would be for certain-minded manufacturers to create another Hitler here in America through the influence of mass hysteria, wrote the anonymous informant. They intend to get a Hitler in by first planting in the minds of the people that men like Frank Sinatra are okay. Sinatra, it seemed, could captivate both conspiracy theorists and bobby-soxers with his voice, and throughout his career, FBI agents listened as closely as his most devoted fans.